Hi, this is Matt Hugg for ThinkNP, and welcome to another edition of Backstage Pass. And today we have with us JoAnn Alberts of CrossList Company. And JoAnn, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Matt. Nice to be here.
So let me read a bit about your bio. And just so folks know, CrossList is a data acquisition and data management company. And one of the big products you guys have, it's not the only product, are lists, right? Mailing lists for different direct mail and other things, and we'll get into that a little more later. But it's based in Missouri, although your offices are remote. We're not sitting in Missouri today, it's a good example also of kind of the virtual office and how you can be anywhere and do certainly your work and a lot of things. So I'll just read right from your bio here. JoAnn has over 30 years experience as a list broker and list manager. She founded Antigone Associates and held it for 11 years before selling it to a major list brokerage list management company in Chicago. After that, she worked with several other similar companies, primarily ALC in Princeton, New Jersey, which at the time was one of the biggest companies of its kind. Clients have included nonprofits, catalogers, publishers, even business-to-business marketers. So, like we were saying beforehand, you probably have forgotten more than I'll ever know about this industry. And I know, I mean, when we've talked, you have so much knowledge about just the analytics and the data and all the things that go with this. So. It's really interesting. So tell me, how do you describe the kind of work you do with nonprofits?
Usually I work with them when they are looking to find new prospects, new donors, or it could be subscribers to a publication that's a nonprofit. Basically, they come to me and say, this is what I need.
Okay.
And then, I take it from there and I do my research, and I have a lot of sources for my research.
Right.
And we try to determine which media channel is best for them, what their budget is, and I just try to find them new blood.
Right. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a huge help to nonprofits, particularly in fundraising, but even in client work, right? Where they already have an established base of folks they work with, and you really need to expand that.
Yes.
And I will never forget something that you told me one time. You're saying, what is this, right? Yeah. Whereas, it doesn't, and I've done a lot of copywriting work and things like that, but you said, none of that makes a difference if you don't have the right list.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's still true today.
Yep.
Yeah, no matter how good your offer is, your campaign, if it isn't in the right hands or in front of the right eyes, it doesn't matter. None of that matters.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's something that folks who are consulting with nonprofits can take away too, is that they're in their own marketing work. If they can have really good material, but if there's nothing there, if it's not in the right person's hands, it doesn't count.
Absolutely.
So really, a lot of your work, it sounds like, is in targeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So how do you? So when somebody comes to you, how do you say, figure out, well, gosh, is this the right target for them, or do you depend on them to have already identified that?
That's interesting. Lots of times they'll come to me and they'll describe what they think is their target audience.
Right.
And sometimes they're correct and sometimes not necessarily.
How do you tell if they're not right?
Well, I usually say to them, you know more about your donors or subscribers than I do, but I know more about the tenets of marketing than you do.
Sure.
So sometimes they'll come to me and say, this would be the most general one, I want a certain person who earns a certain amount of money and reads history books. Okay. So
maybe it's a historic house or something that they're preserving.
Yeah, exactly. And that's good. But we have to find somebody who is mail responsive, or somebody who checks it. You have to identify somebody who has done something similar. Or even when I said the one about history books, that's maybe a little tighter than usual. So they'll come to me with an income and an age, and all that's okay. but you just have to get down, really dig deeper than that into the psychographics, you know, the person, which is what the person's interests are. And primarily, if you're looking for a contributor, you should go to a contributor file. If you're looking for more subscribers to your, you know, publication, you really need to look at other people who subscribe. And that's just one of the basic things. You know, in the catalog world, it doesn't, I'll give you an example of fishing.
Yeah.
Somebody could buy fishing products.
Sure.
Doesn't mean they're going to subscribe to a fishing publication.
Ah, okay.
Somebody could subscribe to fishing publications, but there's no way they're going to buy any product. They might go to a retail outlet.
Walmart or Kmart or something.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Or they might fish, but it doesn't mean they want to read about it.
Right.
So you really, the source is so, so important.
Okay.
And that's something that I, you know, that I apply.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's the top thing that
well, and this is something you bring to the table, obviously,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
Now, one of the things, and we're kind of going down a path here that I hadn't really expected, but I think it works, is that how does your work, basically, how do people like you get paid? Because I know a lot of folks are concerned, you know, well, if I go through a list broker, if I talk to somebody like JoAnn, it's going to cost me more money. I just need to go right to the source.
I've been fighting that argument since the beginning.
Oh, I know.
You know, and
yeah.
usually, well, and you know what? I can't use you know, the usual explanation, because nowadays everybody goes to travel agents online. You don't use a travel agent as much. But you know, basically what it boils down to is there's an established price for a list or whatever the media is.
Sure.
And the owners of those lists pay list brokers, you know, people like me, they pay us a commission for recommending their lists.
Okay.
So if you go to them directly, 9 times out of 10, they will not give you a better price because they have to support this industry.
Right.
So, you know, it's an advantage to you get all of this expertise and don't pay any extra money for it.
Okay.
So we're like an in-between person, but it doesn't cost anything. And you get so much more. And another thing would be, if you go directly, this is another thing that I always I'm excited about. But if you go to somebody directly, and I always used to use the department store example. Who do we have now? Let's say Macy's and Lord & Taylor. Okay, if you go to Macy's, you're going to, and they're only going to sell you what they have at Macy's.
Right.
And they're not going to say that there's a better one at Lord & Taylor. Using that as an example.
Yeah.
When you go to a list broker, all the list owners pay us a commission. We work for the mailers. We work only for them.
The mailer being the person who's mailing the information.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Right. And it's their interests, their best interests are what are there for us.
Right.
So we want you to mail again. So we aren't going to sway you to one list or one media versus another.
Because it doesn't seem like there's not one that's paying a huge more commission than another one or anything like that.
And really, you know, in the years ago, I know sometimes people give a premium for a good list broker will never pay attention to a premium. A good list broker really has the mailer who would be a fundraiser or a publisher really has their interests at heart, because we want them to mail again. We want them to come back to us. There's nothing to be gained by being swayed by anything other than the best interests of the client.
Okay, well that's really good. That's really important for folks to know.
Yes.
Because I know you offer a valuable service, and folks yet still sometimes aren't so sure about that based on how this all works. And it
costs them nothing.
Right. Right.
Sometimes.
Well, at least your service costs them nothing. Of course, the lists themselves will cost them something, but it won't be any more cost than not going through.
No, and you get our unbiased opinion. You know, we just don't throw things out there. We just work diligently for your success.
Well, and your 30 years of expertise, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I know you've done work for profits and nonprofits. So what's the difference when you do dealing with both sides of that?
It's interesting you say that. It's in what I do, there really isn't a difference.
Okay.
In their approach, there is a difference.
Right.
But in what I do, there really isn't a difference. You know, we look for people who have similar interests, that would be psychographics, similar demographics.
Okay.
The source is similar. If you're raising money, we want people who donated before, as I mentioned, earlier. So, basically, do you remember RFM?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Frequency,
see monetary value. Yeah.
It's the same.
Right.
It's it's the same thing, whether it's a business, it's a consumer, or whether it's, a fundraiser. It's the same.
Now, you said, your part's the same. How do you find their approach to you? Is that different?
Unless they're a really large, national mailer, they frequently are not as marketing oriented.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
They're not as flexible, as open to change, not as open to new ideas. Sometimes they get stuck in one place.
Kind of risk adverse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes it's this isn't working, but we're going to still do more of it.
No, right. Or I've seen the other side where we tried buying lists once.
Yeah.
It didn't work, and it's like, well, but you got to keep on doing it. Yeah. You can't just do it once and say, we failed.
And analyzing the response.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did you get started in this business?
I was actually an adult college student, and it was a co-op job.
Oh, really?
And I was
interesting.
Immediately, this is what I want to do.
Was it the analytics part that attracted you, or the
No. I just like trying to figure out what makes people tick.
Okay. Now that's interesting, because I think a lot of folks wouldn't consider that is your business. Because they look at it's just lists, right? And you're putting out these things, right? But it's not. It sounds like you actually step back and.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
That's what my job is.
Right.
Really, what makes people act.
Right.
And that's
right.
That's really what it's all about. To really think hard about it. And that was what was fun.
That's cool. That's cool.
Be at a party and somebody say, I get this mailing and that mailing and this mailing, and I have no idea why. And I'm thinking, okay, I have an idea why.
Yeah, right.
So that was fun.
And now, do you find with the shift to online, is that how's that impacted your business?
It has. I mean, there's less mailing, and there's more
less postal
online.
mailing, at least.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's less of that and more online. One of the things is, most people are multi-channel now.
Sure.
And it's not that you really can't do without one feeds on the other.
Right.
You get something in the mail, what do? You go online. Whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit,
right.
First thing you want to do is check them out online.
Yeah. Well, and I've told folks, I do some teaching, and tell my students, my school sends me the mailing, does the phone-a-thon call, and then I get the email, and I respond to the email because I remembered those other two contacts.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So one just feeds on the other, and sometimes, I'm not going to mail as much because I'm really doing well with my online. And I say, well, how was it the week after you did a mailing? Oh, it was really great.
Yeah.
Okay, does that tell you something?
Right, yeah, right.
But that's the way it works.
Right.
They feed on each other.
That's important for folks to remember, that, that cycle.
Well, something has to get you to the online site.
Right, yeah, there has to be that push, that drive there.
Yeah.
So what's your ideal client? What does CrossList look for when somebody comes to them and says, we want to engage you guys?
Well, my ideal client is a national mailer.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Right.
That's, they're not as easy to find, but of course there's more open, there's more open to me. Sometimes I can find great lists for somebody, but they might be looking for 2 counties or 5 counties, and a list that turned out to be large and wonderful turns out to be below minimum order.
Right.
So a national mailer.
What is about a minimum order or so?
About 5,000 names.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. So that's the first one, because then I know I can just research and find
That's when the fun begins?
That's when the fun begins.
Okay.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And, and people who are a little open-minded. And you know what? If the campaign is, if the appeal, if it's good, if I feel good about it, that's an ideal.
Okay.
Something you really feel good about, and you feel like people want to hear about this.
Right. So I think it sounds like things that excite you are good as long as they're kind of meeting a threshold and all that. You're good to go.
Yeah, because we only get paid when we place orders. So frequently I do a ton of research, and no orders result from that. No orders, no money. Yeah. Because we don't charge the mailers or the immediate buyers. We don't charge them. That's the way, that's the business model.
Sure. Now, when you were in business for yourself, how did you get your first few clients? How did that come about? Okay, what, a lot of cold calling?
Cold calling and trade shows, and it was like one thing just led to another. Yeah. It was
now, how's that compare with today?
Well, the calling is different. Every phone call is intercepted.
Is screened one way or another, whether by a person or by a machine?
I do a lot of email prospecting now. And
do you use your own techniques to help your own business?
Yeah. We don't do as much direct mail as we did. Right. Because that's another thing. People are just like I am in working in satellite offices. Yeah. You find that so frequently. It's not that everybody is one place. Yeah. So you can send a direct mail piece, and it's going to the main office, let's say, but it's really not going to other people who need to see it. Right.
And so if your boss in Missouri packages a bunch of stuff that came in the mail for you, they're not going to include that piece in the package.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So we've been doing pretty good with email prospecting. We've been growing a database of email addresses.
Sure. So was there a time when you just were about to say, no more nonprofit work?
Haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
And I do mix it up. So I think that if it was straight nonprofit, it would be more difficult.
Right.
But we mix it up.
Yeah.
We say. And that's another thing I've always loved, is mixing it up.
Okay.
I think it keeps you fresh.
Yeah.
And it keeps you from pigeonholing yourself and being on one track. When things carry over, they cross over, which is one of the reasons for cross and cross lists.
Okay.
They cross over. They really do. So what you learn in one area really applies to different areas.
Right. And I guess there are naturally some, based on the company's contacts, some kinds of nonprofits that come to you that you just find happens, right?
We just find what?
Well, there are some kinds of nonprofits. I don't know. Maybe you work with religious nonprofits, or you work with environmental nonprofits, or whatever. But once they find you, somebody finds you, they start referring the same, others of their colleagues to you. Yeah.
Yeah. If they're not worried about competition.
Right. Yeah. Well. Right. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, and in the nonprofit world, there's a lot of there's crossover, but sometimes folks tend to share.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And networking. Networking is a good thing.
So what's the most important thing you think people should know about working with nonprofits?
You need to, like with anybody, you really need to gain their trust. You should be interested in all aspects of what they do. Be willing to pay attention and advise where you can. Be open and understand them. Lots of nonprofits are coming from a place with their deep interest in
their mission.
Their mission, and sometimes can't see beyond it. Okay. So you need to have you need to have more patience.
Okay.
I think there is more patience required than when you work with a for-profit.
Interesting.
And perseverance. Yeah. Although I can't say perseverance, in all all the types of clients. I mean, sometimes this is something I learned a long time ago. You might start talking to somebody and not get your first order for 7 or 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like an ongoing thing. You call people, keep in touch with them somehow without making a pest of yourself.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You just need to be top of mind as they're moving ahead on a project. Because I guess in your part, you know, there's a lot of other steps that come ahead of what you do.
Yes.
So just kind of like, hey, we're still out there.
Right. That's exactly right. Just to remind them that you're still there. Absolutely correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And have patience.
Right.
You know, don't give up if you don't get anything or hear from them in a month. That's no sense to that.
Now, I imagine you know your competitors in the field, right? You've been around. So do you have relationships with your competitors? Do you talk? You know?
Well, in what we do, this is going to be a tough one for most people to understand, but in what we do, we are clients and we are clients and competitors. There's
Okay.
usually a list management division.
Right.
And a list brokerage division. So let's say we have those 2 divisions across lists and another company does. So there's another company where I, as a list broker, will go to their list management division and order from them for my client.
Okay, so list management is basically the storage and curation of their lists that they own.
Yeah.
And you have the same there, so you are now kind of crossing over to their to what they have.
They order from us.
Right.
We order from them, so we keep those relationships. You know, we're very careful. If somebody comes to us, if a list broker orders from our list management division,
sure,
we're very careful. We don't pick up the phone and call their client and try to get them as our client. There's a certain respect. In the industry.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, right, yeah. Okay, well that's good.
So you have to keep those relationships. Now, in fact, somebody, I don't know, something came up last week and one of the list management companies called us up. I noticed something. I think somebody's doing something wrong with your name. So, you know, we're good. We have a good reputation and we maintain good relationships.
That's great.
And that's very important.
Yeah, that folks know each other, because I imagine that someday that person could be working for you, or they could you could be working for them, and so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just had somebody contact us the other day, who he remembered me from probably 8 years ago, where we were all, this one client had 5 list brokers in a room together.
Really?
All
Okay.
competitors. And he remembered that I was one of them.
Right.
And so he's now doing something entirely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, those relationships go down a long time.
Well, and your reputation as well, because obviously this person remembered you as somebody he could trust and reach out to, and so what you did before.
Right. Yeah, because when we were together the last time, it was not for a nonprofit, and now he's working for a nonprofit publisher.
Okay. Isn't that interesting? Cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, and the relationships are almost incestuous, because the publisher he's working for is also someone that we've ordered from directly. It's really,
from
those relationships are, they always say incestuous.
Yes, right.
So
all cycle back. Yeah.
You should really keep yourself on above board. But you know, when you're talking about that trust, it's just so important. You know, trust. And I mean, I've had relationships 20 years. That's built on trust.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, is there anything else that you think people would benefit from your experience working with nonprofits, or just generally in business for yourself over the years?
Patience.
Patience is a good thing.
Perseverance.
Right.
The things that we've discussed. Be honest, be caring. Don't narrow yourself to one area. Care about the whole organization. Pay attention. And it's okay. It's usually okay to give advice, in an area that that is not an area you work with on them. If you see something wrong, like I had a client who was sending out this tiny postcard.
Sure.
And so I'm not a creative person.
Right.
But I do know as a consumer that it was for a nonprofit magazine that a tiny postcard got lost in my mail.
Well, and besides which, you know, you want your list to be successful.
Absolutely.
And so the other parts make a difference in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned something about that postcard and said, hey, bump it up.
I did. I did. I
Yeah.
also did. Or sometimes they'll send me their mail piece. What do you be? Well, it's, you know, being created. What do you think?
Right. Yeah.
And so I do usually say this is not my area of expertise, but this would be my opinion.
Sure. Sure.
You know, and I'll give advice, and sometimes they'll take it, and sometimes they don't. But
Yeah.
at least they know you care.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and my advice is pretty good.
Well, that's nice to hear that. Right.
You know, I've
That's
been
good.
looking at mail pieces for a long time.
Right.
You know,
right.
and I receive them.
Well, and you know what's successful out there
Exactly,
because
yeah.
you've been doing this.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well, that's really cool.
So gain trust, because if you've earned trust and you've lived up to it, it just pays off in so many ways. Personally, it's very gratifying.
Yeah.
You know, as well as
Yeah.
it puts more money in your pocket because you
Right,
get to
because
do
they-
more work for them.
Right.
You know, in what I do, you're only as good as the last campaign.
Sure.
You know, there's no contract that they have to use you for a year or
Yeah,
anything. So it behooves you to do a good job.
Right. So exactly. That's really good
Yeah.
advice. That's fascinating. Well, JoAnn, thank you so much for being with us today. This has really been interesting. I find these things interesting. And like I said, you know so much about this field, and we just kind of covered just a tiny bit of it. But if people want to reach out to you directly and find out more about you, about cross lists, how do they do that?
Well, our website is going through transition right now.
Yeah, yeah.
But right now it is crosscompany.com.
Okay.
But the best way to reach me is via email,
Right.
and that is jdalberts
Right.
at crosscompany.com.
jdalberts@crosscompany.com. That's cool.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Well, good.
And I can give you my phone number.
Oh, well, please, if you'd like to.
215-499-6161.
Okay, super. Well, hey, thank you so much, JoAnn.
You're welcome.
Well, this has been ThinkNP's Backstage Pass, and today we've had with us JoAnn Albert of Cross Lists Company, and hope you enjoyed today's show. Now, get to work.